Alrighty, week 6, which really means after this week, right? Or including this week, there's really only 3 weeks left of this class, which is, I know, really fast paced. And I, at this point, and that's kind of some of the write up I had around this week. Like, you should be starting to get the feeling like you have or developing at least the knowledge, right, to be an entry level tech. And of course, part of that knowledge is turning it into skill. And that's an important part. Like, we're introducing you to concepts that you really want to take to the next level and gain that experience. And of course, some of this coursework will do it, but in relationship to the larger IT topics, like this is something you really need to be working on just in your own space, like learning how to reload operating systems, learning how to install basic networks, right? Learning how to secure your system. Along that vein, it's a perfect time for me to bring up something that happened with Ray Gonzalez, who's in this class, because he and I have been communicating back and forth about his concerns about providing links. Now, if you know, right, if you realize that in Canvas, in our discussions, I have you provide links to your PowerPoint or to your output from your recordings, to YouTube videos, right? And so in this case, he was concerned, and rightly so, because as I had thought about when I first started doing this, because I've been having students use links through all of my courses for many years, is that we always need to think about what's the risk, right? What is the risk to having students create a link? There are definitely risks, just like when you're out browsing the larger internet, you always want to stop before you click on something, right? And one thing I do all the time, like I will, if I'm, let's just say, on a news site, right? Before I click on something, right, I will always look down at the very bottom to look at the URL, unless it's a site I trust and know that is, a trustworthy site. So what you want to, in this, links are the way the web works, but it's also the way you can, be exposed to things unintentional, because somebody might use these links to transmit insecure, vulnerable, security risks. They could. There's just various ways this could happen. So, Ray said to me, he didn't feel comfortable providing a link because I'd given him feedback to the discussion about it. And so it prompted, him and I going back and forth, because I said to him, like, what's your concerns, right? What are, and he's thinking like a cybersecurity person, because these are the kinds of things you would want to think about. Now, what his discussion with me made me realize is that I've been starting with a certain assumption. And the assumption I've started with is that students in this class are here to learn cybersecurity and would not post things that are malicious in an intent, right? And if anything, it'd be by accident. Maybe you maybe, and this could happen, your system was infected with some kind of spyware that interjected between your copy and paste and Canvas. So what I decided to do was I decided that I would go out and ask chat. I was just interested, like, what's this cybersecurity concerns about creating hyperlinks inside a secure system like Canvas? Because we are on a secured system, and it was great, the output that I got, right? So it says, Canvas is used by many different organizations, but still you want to think about, when you're providing links, when you're doing that, what are the risks? But again, this extends to just understanding links in general, right? Phishing attacks, information leakage, third-party risk, unencrypted content, right? So HTTP is, of course, something you want to always look for, right? Compliance issues. Yes, as an educational institution, we are bound by certain guidelines, protection for data privacy, right? Credential harvesting, right? Somebody's trying to gain by the way they're giving you a link to something, that content, right? So there definitely are ways, but how do we mitigate it, right? Education and training. One of the things I would have hoped coming out of CIT 15, which was required for this, that would have been something that you got exposed to. But if you didn't, now's the time, right? There are different HTTPS. Always look for that. So and especially if I'm going to give my information to a site, I definitely want to make sure. Again, I'm pointing to the very bottom because the link that you see above, right? The link here is not the URL, right? This is what, and I actually I call them friendly links, okay? Because I wanted you to make it easy for your fellow classmates, because a very long link is not necessarily friendly. But what it is probably a little more secure. But I had assumed students would always look. But I get that probably didn't happen as much as I thought it would, right? So limited times warning. So here's kind of where I ended up going with this, is how, like, give me, I mean, I know how I do it, but how do you recognize suspicious links, right? Mismatch URL, right? So this is if you roll over that and it's in no way could you see it's related to the type of link that they're telling you you're going to. Right, shorten URLs. This is where you can have Instagram. I mean, there's so many different. Google has these to where it takes these long URLs and it shortens them. I think the way I'm doing it with friendly links, meaning you just write some text and then you create the link, is better than shorteners. Because shorteners, there's something between that shorten URL. Have you seen these? When you click on that, then it sends it to their site, and that is out of your privy, right? So yeah, those I don't like and I don't use them. Insecure protocols, spelling and grammar, non-matching domains, very, very common to look for, right? So, check destination without clicking. So one of the things I started looking at was just like, and I know they were out there, but I hadn't looked at them in a little while. There are sites that you can validate to the best of their ability, of course, based on the information that they have, that those links are indeed fine to share, right? And it gives, and if you want to do the same search as how to validate links before sharing, it's a good thing to know. So in general, if any of this general knowledge that I just provided to you was new to you, definitely go do some additional searching and think before you share. Now, what I will say is ultimately in Canvas, and I read this later on in my conversation with Chad about this, is that because so many institutions use it, it's generally trustworthy, but we could definitely be more aware. So I start with the idea that we're all here to be professionals, that we wouldn't share links that are malicious in nature, but sometimes, like I've said, it can happen even if you don't intend it based on what could be loaded on your system. So yes, links are great and they make the web work, but they can also be a source of attack. So you have to think about that. And actually in week 7, we start into covering more specific cybersecurity topics. Anyway, thanks. And here's what I appreciate about what Ray did, is that he reached out and voiced his concern, because trust me, we are all still learning. If you stop learning in this field, your progress will most likely stop, because in a field like cybersecurity, which in the field of IT in general, one of the things I was drawn to about this field was I'm always having to learn. I was always having to review my assumptions about certain things, and this was a great opportunity for me to do that. So thank you, Ray, for taking that. Okay, so this week is about databases. Let's just go look real quick. Databases, oh man, they are everywhere. And actually, just the database itself can be a whole conversation, and you just get into understanding the concepts and how to query databases and table design. So these are some fundamental topics about databases, but from a cybersecurity, man, because so much of your information is kept in a database, and when somebody's going after personal information, getting access to an unsecured database is definitely something that can happen and has happened. When you hear about data breaches, most of the time these data breaches are somebody got access to the database, sucked out all that data, and then went out on the dark web and sold it. So databases are both, again, it's kind of like links. It's just the way that IT works. It's the way we store information. I mean, I could just list, and for the next 20 minutes, all the different places in my life I know my data is stored in a database, which is concerning. But at some point I have to let go and just know, hopefully when that happens, I'm informed and I can take the necessary action. Okay, last topic is for our discussion this week. You have your recording. So this is the last time. I actually kind of went through and planned out the rest of it. So I'll have you do one more research, but it won't be like what we've done before. I'm working on that now, but this will be the last time we share it with each other. So make sure, right? So again, coming back to links, right? Make sure your link is viewable. Again, the idea of opening it incognito. If you don't want a link, you're welcome to just put brackets around and if you're uncomfortable, right? If you're uncomfortable, anybody else is uncomfortable actually creating that link, which you notice Canvas actually does automatically generally when you hit enter, you can always tell it to remove it and put some kind of note there that says, hey, user, other classmate, copy and paste that into, and you could say an incognito window, right? At least that's a little more secure. Okay, so for the writing, so you give us a link to that. Here's the things I want you to talk about in your discussion is, did you change your approach, right, for this recording, for the recording of this presentation compared to the previous one in week 3? Did you reflect on, after you listening, and did you change your approach? And if not, how so? And if why not? Why not? Right? And here's my other thing I want you to include is, do you have any plans or strategies to continue improving your ability to write effective prompts? Because trust me, this is not the last time you will be interacting with some kind of AI. You're in a field that is very adjacent to AI, and the more you learn to use these tools, the better it's going to get, right? And just like before, write narrative style. Don't write the questions, write narrative style in here. And again, these are due by Wednesday, right? To two of your fellow classmates, right? And then help them again. I saw this really work out well for the first one, where you watch somebody's presentation, and again, try to find folks who don't have somebody who's replied to them, because I think that just works out better. So do that for each other, right? Go and look at it and give them feedback on their presentation. Listen to it, right? Again, they shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 minutes, so it's relatively quick, and respond. Again, I'm gonna make this 2. Sometimes it's 3. This one's gonna be 2. And I said, as clarifying, this is the same thing. This part of what I had last week. So, and then help them. Okay, so I'm going to start working on, actually, my goal in the next week. Now, I'm actually in the RL, right? We're just coming into week 5. So my goal by the beginning of next week, which would be week 6, when you're going to see this, is I'm going to have 7 and 8 already done. Because the final, right, if we were to look forward, which does not hurt at all, right? So 7... I gotta change this because I don't know if I want to do, anyway, I'll think about that one, to the discussion. And 8's troubleshooting, which is your last one, and then the final in week 9. So I think what my goal will be is to have all of that released, so those of you that want to work ahead can. Because I know at the end of the semester it's that transition between one class starts, and I think almost all of you are probably in the next class in the sequence. So sometimes it's nice to work ahead whenever possible, and in general I recommend it when you can. All right. Thanks so much. Thanks again, Ray, for giving your input. And anybody else that has any comments about this, please reach out to me. I always enjoy talking about this stuff because we all learn together. Man, that is just the way the world works.